Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you. I'm a ClimateFast member, and ClimateFast is a climate activist group in Toronto here that's been very very effective in helping with the Transform TO efforts. I'm hopeful that this council, infused with some marvelous new energy, as well as those of you with experience, will come together and lead us to do our very best in a time of a multitude of crises. Toronto, as Canada's largest city, must be exemplary. I know you know that. What we do here really, really matters. Toronto's net zero by 2040 strategy is wonderfully aspirational, but it needs to become a reality, and it must be prioritized in the budget. If we did this, it would simultaneously help other crises, such as the public transportation funding, affordable housing, and frankly, even the mental health crisis. People need to feel good about the future by being cared for now. So take, for example, the TDC funding, about which we've heard a lot already today. As you know, the budget calls for a 10% increase in fares and an overall 9% decrease in service. And this runs completely counter to the net zero strategy, which calls for strengthening our transit system and moving us to free transit by 2040. A better, cheaper service encourages ridership. We know that, and it's essential for those who depend on it the most. And that's people who don't own cars and people who do shift work and depend on reliable service during the off-peak hours, which are among those that will be cut. So how can we address this? Well, you've heard this already today too. We must consider revenue tools that are within our reach. So the commercial parking levy seems to be gaining traction, and I fully support it. Apparently, the revenue from that could pay for the shortfalls in the TDC budget that we're experiencing. What about a climate action tax? Other cities, such as Halifax, have bravely done this, and if accompanied by adequate public education, Torontonians would feel good about it, as long as people who cannot afford it get a rebate, of course. How about reinstating the famous vehicle registration tax? It's worth noting that the ill-conceived rebuild of the Gardiner is the most expensive maintenance fee in the budget, costing $1 billion more than the cost of transportation services in Toronto, and much more than the TDC. I understand that Toronto is spending over $3 billion just to repair 1.7 kilometers. This is money that could be spent on transit, cycling, and pedestrian infrastructure. Remember, our goal is 75% of trips within 5 kilometers are to be cycled, walked, or on board the TDC by 2040. In addition to addressing the shortfalls in public transport, we must scale up building retrofits, especially those that increase the amount of affordable housing. As you will all know, buildings are 60% of Toronto's emissions. Building green, affordable housing can address both the housing and the climate crisis. The capital budget allocated for climate-related work this year is $2 billion or so. But to reach our 2040 goals, according to the city itself, there's actually a need for $8 billion every year. This is the kind of money that requires other levels of government to pitch in a whole lot more. So can the council work as one and with determination demand, for example, 1% of the provincial sales tax? Can council indicate strong support for the atmospheric fund's championing of heat pumps federally? Heat pumps provide much needed relief in extreme heat, and that's another equity issue that we all learned from the BC experience. Finally, there is no clear plan to fund Toronto's resilience strategy, it seems. Given projections for increased extreme weather events, the city needs to increase funding for programs that provide stable housing and shelter beds, that protect our ravines and park spaces for cooling and shade, and that are necessary for residents' well-being, and at the same time, protect biodiversity. The significant increase to the police budget would be better spent on social supports that would strengthen our communities, actually improve community safety and support climate resilience. Many others have deputed on very good ideas in this area, and I support them wholeheartedly. Finally, according to the city's own report on the net zero strategy, Over 90% of people agree that climate change is a threat, but almost half of the residents say they don't know what they can do. So I'd like to change that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm pretty much done.
Do we have any questions? Okay, thank you. There are no questions.